The 10inaRow Celtic Show is a HailHailMedia production featuring Paul Larkin and Graham Wilson, so it may contain sweary words and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage Tims, turn on the show now and listen back later. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
That shirt you got on?
Welcome to the 10inaRow Celtic Show. My name is Graham Wilson. This is the 9th installment. 9 in a row.
Oh, ho, ho, off we go. What do you know? It's 9 in a row.
The dulcet tones you're hearing are from the green and white writer, Mr. Paul Larkin. How are you, Paul?
I am fair to Midland.
Fair to Midland? I thought you were on the East Coast.
East Coast, West Coast. I'm known from coast to coast like butter and toast.
That you are. You're also the mayor of Dublin. It seems anyway. It's a shame that the result today, Legia Warsaw, gave St. Pat's a doing. We almost had a Champions League tie in Dublin. That would have been good to get your insight.
I personally think that was the unseen Fenian hand of Conor Fallon, who's in Florida from Saturday. Was absolutely furious at the prospect of Celtic being in Dublin, and he wasn't going to be there. I think he had a word, Graham, you know what I'm saying, and Legia done the damage.
Well, we know that Mick Sheehan didn't have anything to do with it. He's busy off in the countryside propping up the economy.
But Mick Sheehan, I don't think since Monday morning, I don't think Mick Sheehan's had anything to do with anything, or been in the physical state to have anything to do with anything, but we'll come on to that later.
Read into that whatever you want.
Well, I mean, listen, let me tell you one Mick Sheehan story straight away. So, it's 3 a.m, it's Monday morning, it's Dublin, Molly Malone is in the vicinity, and myself and Connor are kind of meandering through the streets, fairly well-oiled, and Mick has gone to Smithfield's, gone to his house in a taxi. See you later, Mick, God bless, gives a cuddle, gives a kiss, all that kind of thing. Usual story. He's off. So Connor and I are kind of, taking in the night air as you do, two young men, in the vitality of their life. And the next thing, Graham, now bear in mind, just put yourself in this position, you've been to Dublin, you know the score. A taxi pulls up in front of us. And we kind of look at each other like, what the fuck is this? Is this a hit? And who pops out? Mick Sheehan. So I was like, what's going on here? So Mick, being Mick, says, listen, get in, I've done a deal with the taxi driver. We're going to my house, then Connor's house, then the airport, because I'm going back to the airport for the 6:30 a.m. flight, Graham. So, I jump in a taxi, Connor jumps in the front. Connor spends the entire time talking to the boy. I'm completely oblivious, mixing a coma, singing, joining a flying column in 1916 over and over again. We drop him off. We drop Connor off. Connor gets out, does the usual 15 handshakes, all that kind of thing when you're drunk and God bless you, etc. As we pull away from Connor's house in Artane, the taxi driver says to me, how long you know nay, guys? And he said it in that way, Graham, do you know what I mean? When he's thinking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's something bad. I'm going to tell him, I just met him in a pub, mate. What's the problem? He's like, are they really in the Ra? And I was like, and I said, would you? So apparently, Mr. Sheehan for tip, Dan Breen himself has given it. Listen, we're in the Ra. €35, Graham, from the centre of Dublin to Smithfields to Artane to the airport. €35 is all the boy took because he was in fear of his life, and that was me back at the airport. That's Mick Sheehan.
Unbelievable. That's and please, for all the listeners, we are not advocating trying that yourself. That's a one-off. I would not suggest you try and do that. I mean that's part of the game, and people are still eating for the game, Graham. So we can't have it exposed in public.
Mm.
Very true. Well, with that being said, let's run down the format of the show. 10 in a row.
Hey, how does it work?
This is what we're going to do. We're going to have 10 topics. We're going to have 5 minutes to debate each topic, me and you, pal. And at the end of it, klaxon.
And did we have a disclaimer at the start of this show?
We did, yes. There's going to be sweary words. There's going to be adult situations, yada, yada. Turn it off if you got the Waynes.
Chance to be a fine thing, eh? I mean, let's face it, you're an impending father. How you're going to be discussing many adult situations that didn't involve sterilised milk,
Listen, you can't shelter these kids too much.
That's what they said on Sesame Street.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a segue, so first topic. Jesus, how do you segue out of Sesame Street? Paul threw on a counter. 5-0 aggregate, 4-0 last night. A brace from Virgil van Dijk and Pukki as well. Pretty easy going through there. Basically what we would have expected on the first leg as well. Maybe we're starting to click in, finding that second gear, getting a bit of continuity within the team. Some of the players that maybe we're going to start to see on a more consistent basis. Your thoughts from the first round of the Champions League qualifying? Yeah,
I thought it was a wee bit of both. I thought the team were playing were pretty average and we were pretty good. What's encouraged me, Graham, is the fact that it's clear what Ronny Deila is trying to do, and it's clear that you can already see what he's trying to do. The style's different, the system's different, and the players are different. And it's clear that some of the players who might have been mainstays before Ronny Deila took the position are maybe just struggling a wee bit to kind of get to grips with Graham. Meanwhile, other players are absolutely thriving on it. And, at times, what I'll say is this, Graham. You're playing against a team last night. We joked and we laughed last week about the fact they played basically an 8-2 against us. Last night they played a 10-0. They sat back. They never at any stage tried to go forward. It was clearly damage limitation, and we still were able to penetrate and humiliate them to a 4-0 drubbing. And what I'll say to you is this, Graham, and I don't know if you'll agree, you'll jump in and tell me, I'm no doubt, is the fact that if anybody, and I mean anybody, in the SPL next season tries to come out and play against us, we will fucking destroy them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's clear to see that, if anybody wants to leave themselves even the slightest bit exposed, they're going to get ripped. And one observation, Paul, you were there. You can tell me a little bit more about this. I'm not familiar with what the dimensions were there at Murrayfield, but it seemed as though the pitch was absolutely massive. Maybe it was an optical illusion because, there was so much there's so much space out with the field itself, especially behind the goals. So, I was sitting there watching and thinking, the pitch looks absolutely massive. Maybe it's, my eyes playing tricks on me. But with that being said, we had much more space to run into and to exploit. And it just seemed like 30 minutes in, even, the Icelandic team was just run ragged. There was just so much space to cover. We had width, and I think that we're starting to find that link up, between the middle of the park and our forwards. Obviously Pukki with a couple of great goals. Izzy Spring and Callum McGregor, and then a perfect through ball there. And Pukki was, this is the sort of instinct that I want from a Celtic striker. Somebody that's going to be running into the box, anticipating the ball coming in so they can just toe poke it back in. That's what Gary Hooper cut his teeth on while he was at Celtic, scored so many goals doing that. It's so exciting to watch. And, fingers crossed that Pukki can continue it. But you're right. I think that, there is a bit of a theme developing within Ronny Deila's mentality and system. And I like hearing, what he has to say in the press. We're not quite there yet. We're making strides. We're making progress. But, it's up to the players to take accountability for their own improvement, for playing in this system. I can't force them to do it, but we're making progress to get forward there. And we're starting to see progress with the results, which is definitely reassuring.
Yeah, look, going to say again, mentioned it last week, going to say it again, Ronny Deila, the fucking balls on that guy. He's taken over this massive fucking football club, absolute world phenomenon, just on the back of 3 in a row, and he's come in, we've played 2 competitive games, and he's already like, no good enough. I love it. I absolutely love it. Because I'm telling you right now, the amount of guys will be timid, we don't know what to change the name, you're doing a great job, blah, blah. Sorry, that's not why you're in the job. You're in the job because you need to be better than the last guy, and that's why he's there. In terms of the pitch dimensions, huge pitch, wide pitch, even wider when you've got a cigar like Yompe, he's looking through blue lenses, that's fine. But I'm telling you now, this guy knows what he wants, and that's key. He knows what he wants. He's got a clear focus. Very encouraging last night, Graham, pre-match. See John Kennedy, he's running through the paces with the guys and all that kind of thing. Really like that. Much prefer him to Gary Parker. John Collins is clearly, he's paramount with the fitness and all that kind of thing. I believe John Collins isn't happy, quite happy with the fitness of the Scottish-based players, let's say that, whereas the foreign players kept himself ticking over all fine. And Ronnie Dyler's just came in and he's put a clear imprint on the team. You know, we've swept aside the Icelandic champions, and, you know, in that context, Graham, great, fantastic. Most important game of the season. You get beat, you're out of Europe. Boom. End of story. No comebacks, no second chances, nothing. So, great. 5-0 victory. No goals conceded. Big Virgil banging in two. Pookie banging in two. I don't think you can ask for much more.
No, absolutely not. And I think that, you know, if we're talking about it and taking a look at it from a macro perspective, I mean, you know, obviously Ronnie Dyler is going to have a bit of a different system than, you know, the one that Neil Lennon et al. Had employed over their time. But if you look at it from a macro perspective, I mean, like you said, many of the mainstays, the players that just knew they were going to get into the side, all of a sudden, you know, their spot isn't guaranteed. All of a sudden, there needs to be hunger. You need to be hungry constantly. Otherwise, you're going to be dropped. And Ronnie Dyler will find somebody to you know, be put in your place. And like you also mentioned, you know, this is, you know, we have to play our best games each and every time out, because, I mean, you know, these teams that we're going up against, yeah, they might not be as well stocked as we are, obviously coming from different financial perspectives, but nonetheless, they're coming out to win. You know, I mean, they're going to try and play their best game they possibly can against Celtic, and we need to match them. We need to match that intensity. We need to match the focus. And I think that the players have been around long enough to know how important Champions League football is to this club. So, you know, in terms of intensity, in terms of hunger, this is exactly what you want from the beginning of the season, and, you know, hopefully you know, we can carry it on, you know, through the next round of qualifiers and, you know, in the opening of the season.
Whether you're a killer or $100 biller, Graham, Ronnie Dyler's the boss.
Next topic, Pookie, a brace. You know, he scored basically in every game that he's played throughout the preseason. I mean, you know, it's almost like a new player, and his comments coming out in the press really reflect that as well. Ronnie Dyler's had, you know, I wouldn't say much praise, but he's been complimentary, we'll say, about Pookie, and you know, he's hopeful that he can push on. He's certainly having you know, a good response to the new regime. Is this his moment? Is to solidify his place in this team? I mean, can he be that sterling striker that we've been missing?
Well, obviously, I've seen, and everybody probably listening, seen the fact that he missed a glorious chance in the first 5 minutes of the game last night. That being said, he then came out in an interview after it and said, you know, it did affect him for 15 minutes, then he forgot about it, which is absolutely paramount if you're a striker. Absolutely. Because you cannot be afraid to miss chances. That's the absolute criminal thing you can do as a striker. You know, I think we had a discussion with some long-term Celtic supporters last night in the grounds of Murrayfield, and we kind of came up with the thing that Pookie is a player. He just needed too much time on the ball in Scottish football. He made comments himself where he thought it'd be easier than it was, and so on and so forth. That's all fine, great. Guys, got to close you down, so you need to move the ball quicker. Added to the fact that you now got a manager who's absolutely imploring you, move the ball quicker. And Pookie's absolutely flourishing. He's absolutely flourishing in this system. You know, he was supplied, I have to say, by, you know, Chris Commons was absolutely phenomenal last night. But you know what, as we said repeatedly on the 8 previous shows of this, Graham, is that when a new manager comes in, there's going to be at least one player who you basically had written off that absolutely starts to flourish. And you know what? It could just be Pookie.
Yeah, no question. I think that there's a couple of different elements. Once again, I mean, you know, I've brought up this theme in past shows and you know, pretty consistently since this player's arrived. I'm talking about Lee Griffiths and how he makes other players better. And I think that the system that we're playing now, we expected there was going to be like a 4-3-3. You know, coming from Ronnie Dyler, historically he's played that with his former club. Last night, and I've seen glimpses of this when we've had success throughout the preseason, we're playing more of a 4-2-3-1, but Lee Griffiths is just behind Pookie on the right. And Pookie, I mean, Pookie can play wide and he can play through those central channels. In my opinion, he's starting to bring on that danger element running the central channel, which is, you know, again, what you want from that poacher, you know, that killer in the box. But he's also quite good at, you know, reading either an overlapping fullback going down the right side or switching off with Lee Griffiths when he's cutting the ball in, dragging defenders out of the way. I mean, there's a lot of things that Pookie's doing quite well, aside from scoring goals, you know, over the past several games, where he's helping out and really buying into the system and having great results. And his finishing is extraordinary as well. I mean, the one goal that he scored where he got around the keeper, obviously, the keeper's completely isolated. But what a strike! I mean, right into the upper 90, as we would say here in America. I mean, that's the sort of quality that informed players have, and I'm hopeful that this isn't just a one-off. I mean, he's had good games in the past, and then he's just sort of withered away. He's starting to build a continuum now, and that's what you need in order to build the confidence to have consistent results and consistent good play. Especially from a striker.
Yeah, I mean, on the second goal, what I loved about it was to just for the point on was the fact that when he rounded the goalie, whilst we were all sitting in the stand wondering what he was doing, he was putting the ball in the net saying, sit down and shut up, that's why I'm on the pitch and you're in the stand. And that's what strikers should be doing. Yep. You know what I mean? That's exactly what their game is. And so, great. It was absolutely fantastic. And I hope he does well because he's clearly got talent. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's clearly got something there. And, more power to him.
Next topic, Murrayfield. Home game. Played away, so to speak. What were your thoughts? I mean, you were there. You saw the game in person. I was watching on the computer. But give us a sense for what was different. What did you like? What did you not like? What? I mean, was it surreal? Your thoughts there?
Yeah. It was definitely surreal. I mean, it was one of these things, Graham, where it was kind of like. I mean, first of all, it was an absolutely Scotland Day in Edinburgh yesterday. Second of all, the crowd far exceeded what I thought would be there. I mean, we had the ridiculous comments from Chick Young that said there was 20,000 there. Then we had these clowns in the press who estimated, there's about 35,000 there. I pulled one of them up today and they said, well, we didn't get the official crowd. So listen, everybody who knows football can guess a crowd and be quite close. There was at least 45,000 people there. And I know there was horrendous traffic with people and, all that kind of thing. But in terms of the stadium itself, it was pretty good, you know what I mean? It was helped by the fact that the Green Brigade were there. They had their own section. They kind of made the atmosphere. But then I wouldn't just give them all the credit for the atmosphere. Loads of people there were there singing around me and all that kind of thing, which then it eventually encapsulated the stadium in a big huddle, Graham, which I think is a prerequisite for any kind of Celtic game. Big huddle in the Champions League, everything was great. As I say, the weather helped. I mean, it was a bit surreal coming from Edinburgh, Celtic playing a home game in Edinburgh. I can walk to the game, not because it's close, because I'm really fit as fuck, but I'm not.
Clearly.
But really, it was a bit strange. You know what I mean? It was like the food outlets that I was close to, absolutely dying on a drink of any kind of anything wet, basically. Was people going up, and I'm kind of went up, and I was like, gives a burger and that, and they're like, we didn't sell burgers. I said, what? And it was like, we've got pulled pork.
And were you in Atlanta?
Great, cheers, thank you. It's no fucking rugby we're watching today, you prick. And so, it was nice. I mean, it was it's a decent stadium. It's a kind of, although it apparently holds more than 67,000. It holds more than Celtic Park, 67,000. It did feel as though it was as big as Celtic Park. Before the game, we were, there's massive fields outside and stuff. People were just sitting, chilling out, and all that kind of thing. And there was a warm haze about it. There was an alcoholic haze about it, of course.
No carnage, no carnage to speak of with the alcoholic haze. That's interesting.
No. I think if there had been any kind of carnage, you'd know about it by now. We'd be talking about it on this show and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But I'm interested to know somebody who was watching from afar what it was like to watch on the computer, Graham.
Well, first off, I mean, the striking thing was the quality of the surface. I mean, it was like playing on a carpet. They were not kidding when they talked about how good the turf was there, and it was like watching players cutting about on a pool table, and that was, it was nice to see it plays right into our hands the way that we want to play. But it seemed as though you mentioned the fact that it seats more people, but it seems like it does, and I think that the one other observation that I had was how far away it seemed that the crowd was from the pitch. Whereas at Celtic Park, in many places, you're right on top of the park. Murrayfield, it seemed as though it was sitting back somewhat, a bit more, but you could get a sense for the atmosphere. You mentioned the Green Brigade being there, and it's just sort of a lively, sort of engaged element from the support itself, which was nice to see. I mean, like you said, it was sweltering in Edinburgh. I don't know, what was it, like maybe 15, 16 degrees?
fucking hotter than DC, that's for sure.
Yeah, that it was not hotter than DC, I promise you.
And it was hotter than all these wankers that are all around the world on their holidays right now when Celtic are back in action, but that's another story.
Yeah, take that, wankers. But it was, there were times when you just completely forgot that it was at Murrayfield. I mean, obviously with the cameras, focusing on players and they're going up and down the pitch. I mean, some of the dimensions are very similar to Celtic Park, especially in the corners, where, the angle that the people are sitting, around the park. Every so often it was like, oh yeah, it's in Murrayfield, and the angle of the sun was pretty similar as well, where it was in the far corner, I guess, as you were with where the camera was located. So, for me, I mean, I didn't have to deal with any of the travel hassles that, a lot of people were having issues, not just getting there. I mean, you heard reports of people, being 15, 30 minutes late for the game, because confusion with the train, but also people stuck in Edinburgh until, 11:30, at night. Make it that whatever you will.
I'm amazed at all these people that always slag Edinburgh at me, Graham, and none of them knew how to actually even get here.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, what did the club do to sort of help, educate people on, how to get there, where to go, here's your train stop? Was there any maps delivered online?
What they did, Graham, was in 1887 they built a stadium. It was about 40 minutes from where we played last night.
Oh, right.
And so they gave people 127 years to find out how to get there, yeah, I mean, look, I think there was the people last night faced something that pretty much everybody going to Glasgow for a big game or a Champions League game faces every single time they go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's absolutely horrendous on the M8 going from Edinburgh to Glasgow, and obviously it was for Glasgow, Edinburgh, and so on and so forth, which meant a lot of people, didn't get in till late, and I've seen some horrendously disparaging comments in the media about stragglers and all this kind of thing. Absolute crap, the people just wanted to go and, as I say, when I went for a drink after Van Dijk scored the first goal, met a couple of guys, but there was thousands of people still coming in saying, "Oh, who scored?" and blah, blah, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's clearly, Murrayfield is a stadium that's no built for people coming from the west of Scotland, let's face it.
Yeah.
It's built for people coming from fucking private schools in Edinburgh and the borders and all that pish, you know what I mean? So, that was that. But in terms of, I know I've seen a lot of people today, Graham, saying, 10 times better than Hampden. Well, you know what? Tell me a stadium in Scotland that isn't. That's the fucking reality. But, I think there could have been a lot of issues, Graham, that came out of that stadium that were completely blown away within about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Primarily because we scored a goal and killed the tie.
Right.
But now I think it'll stand us in good stead for the next game we play there against Legia Warsaw, where it will be, people will know what they're doing, they'll know to leave extra time, and they'll know how to get the park right and all that kind of thing. And, at the end of the day, we've got one game to go there. I'm no over the moon playing in games there and that kind of thing, because I couldn't care less about the Commonwealth Games or anything benefit it gave to us. Any of that bullshit. I want to see Celtic play Celtic Park, but hopefully we'll just wait to get through the next game and then move forward.
Next topic: Fraser Forster. It's being rumored now that bids are coming in for him from Southampton. Assuming that other bids are going to come in as well from down south. Here's a capped England international goalkeeper with a CV like nobody's business. What are your thoughts on his probable departure? Because it is probable at this point. Let's be honest.
Pretty raging, I'll have to say. Look, we hear on all the podcasts and Twitter and everything else about the business plan we're trying to do and all that kind of thing. There has to be a limit, and the limit ends with a goalkeeper who is by far the best goalkeeper we've had in 40 years at Celtic Park.
Easily.
To an extent where he's able to compete against any football team we can play on the planet. That's a top quality goalkeeper. You do not sell him. End of story. You just didn't sell him, and that's it. By all accounts, the guy wants to stay. He's been told, and everybody who said, I want to play Champions League again, so on and so forth. Great. I didn't see the rationale with Graham. The 7.5 million bid that came yesterday, which, by the way, the Daily Record tried to turn into a 3.5 million bid. It's like, what? Excuse me, we're not selling the fucking groundsman here. 7.5 million, which was derisory, It's like, are you kidding me on here? When we see these nonsense like Barini and McCormack and all that kind of thing, let's treble that straight away. Because these goalkeepers, as we've seen, anybody listening to this has seen, do not come along very, very, very often.
No.
And I would be loath to sell him because I really rate the guy. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper who will only get better. Look at the age of him, Graham. You're going to get 10, 15 years out of him. Let's start the bidding at 20 million quid.
No question about it. I mean, I think we have a situation here where, like you said, I mean, I have to repeat, he is the best goalkeeper of a generation. This isn't subjective. I mean, you can point to game after game where he's won us points. I've said it before, and hopefully I'll say it again and again. The one thing that I'm bewildered at is how Celtic have handled this. They come out and they confirm that a bid has come in, from a team down south. Now, the one thing that's interesting about Fraser Forster, and you compare Fraser Forster to, some of the other big names that have, played for Celtic and moved south or elsewhere. I mean, Gary Hooper, his agent coming out in the press all the time talking about bids coming in. Wanyama, always talking about, bids coming in and he's going this place and that place and the other. And even, Kyle and Izagiri when their, light was up and they were getting all sorts of attention. But you never hear anything from Fraser Forster or his camp. And to your point, I mean, it seems as though he's comfortable, he's happy within Celtic. And yet the club come out, they confirm that a bid has come in, and essentially you're turning his head. We talk so much about tapping up and these big teams coming in and from down south and putting out allegations or requests through the press and et cetera, et cetera. But if he sees that the club is coming out and saying, right, bids are coming in, he's thinking to himself, oh, well, here's my chance. I'll have an opportunity to go south. Why would you confirm that? Why wouldn't you just pass that on, not comment about it? I mean, we've heard time and time again, Neil Lennon in the past coming out and saying, I'm not going to talk about, bids coming in. It's all silly and everything else. That was strange to me. But, to your point, the fact that, you're absolutely right. You cannot just develop, any keeper to be of the skill level, of the performance level that you have with Fraser Forster. I mean, first off, he's massive. He's 6'7". He's got hands the size of a Volkswagen. So I mean, you can't teach that. And you have to put differing values on different players. Strikers are obviously going to cost a different amount to goalkeepers. And what's ironic is that goalkeepers are typically you don't see these massive bids coming in for goalkeepers, in spite of the fact that they probably have the most longevity out of anybody in the park. You see keepers, Friedel's playing, and he's 40. And with Fraser Forster being 26 at this point, he very well could have another 10 years of good quality play on him. So you'd think that would be a great investment, for any club, and it'd be a huge investment for Celtic if they're going to be serious about, wanting to continue to compete on the highest level in the European theater. You absolutely have to have a keeper that is to that level. I mean, without Fraser Forster, I don't think we beat Barcelona. I don't think we get out of that group. And that's the reality that we're going to face if and when we sell Fraser Forster.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the age-old problem with Celtic is always we're right and everybody else is wrong, And let me tell you right now, that's probably been as far wrong as it could possibly be in our entire history right now with some of the galoots that have got at Celtic Park. It's obvious that what they're trying to do is make sure Craig Gordon's fit, and once they establish he's fit, Fraser Forster will go. And that's ridiculous. You had 45,000 people travel to a different city for a home game last night. Pay them the respect they deserve and keep your good players there, right? Yes, we understand certain players, your Wanyamas. Fraser Forster has come out and said he wants to play in the Champions League. He is not going to play at a Champions League club in England anytime soon. Therefore, keep him. Keep the squad together and show the new manager the respect. Ronnie Deila came out to press today and said, oh yeah, I'd love to keep him. He's a fantastic goalie and that kind of thing. Back him. Give the guy a stand right away and say, you know what, Ronnie, he's absolutely right. Anybody wants to get him, they're going to have to pay insane money. So, to even mention a 7.5 million bid is a wrong move. And come on, the guy's top quality. Keep him.
Absolutely. And, when you talk about Gordon, it's not even a question of, we're not even going to. I mean, it would be farcical to even talk about whether or not Craig Gordon could replace Fraser Forster. But is he even adequate? To step in his footsteps, and I don't think so. I mean, he's completely unproven. We know Zaluska isn't going to be up to that level, especially against European competition, and that's the situation that we're in. Not about dollars and cents, but about where it leaves this team. To compete in Europe. We want to compete. We don't want to just get into the group stage so that we get a bunch of money.
Yep.
Next topic. Speaking of Europe, European away travel. Paul, are fans priced out of traveling? We have confirmation now that we're going to be playing against Legia in Poland. It's not exactly next door. I mean, it's just becoming more and more difficult for fans to travel to these away games with the prices, is it not?
Yeah. Actually, last night I was sitting with a group of guys who used to go. I used to see them all the time in the 90s and the 80s. Graham, on buses to away games and that. And the reason people went on buses, it wasn't like planes weren't available. It's just that they were too fucking expensive.
Right.
So collectively, teams got together, run a bus, and spent 60 hours on it in a week. That's how it worked. Because at the end of the day, they wanted to go and see Celtic. Now, we're talking and laughing about going to places like Bordeaux, and one of the guys said, "Oh, do you remember when we got to Bordeaux and we're in Paris? Oh, great! It's only an hour to go or something like that. It's about the same fucking distance from Glasgow to Paris as from Paris to Bordeaux." These were the kind of things we on. But now, I mean, I feel as far removed from it as ever, quite frankly. And I'm speaking as someone who went religiously to every Celtic away game in Europe right through the late 80s, all through the 90s and the early 2000s. Went to Celtic. Never seen us score a goal away from Graham for German Laker in 1991, right through to Tyrol in Austria when Alan Stubb scored a free kick in 1997. But we still went because it was Celtic. Now, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I believe the price was going to be for Dublin if we'd qualify. St. Pat's had qualified with 150 quid for a day trip. A day trip, 2 flights over to Dublin, 35 minutes on the plane. And it's just like, what is going on here? I mean, it literally like, does it no bother Celtic the fact that all these guys and girls who went to Europe all these times religiously, home and away all the time, can't afford to go now? Yeah. They just can't afford to go now. And they set a price of 750 quid per person for Iceland. And it's like, who you try to attract here exactly? Because I tell you something right now, Graham, as John Fogerty said, it ain't me.
Yeah, It's a shame to see because, as a relatively newer Celtic supporter, over the past 10 to 15 years, you hear stories. And I love listening to you talk about, going to Bordeaux and going to Hamburg and going, all over the place. And, it seems as though it's becoming, more and more difficult. And you see a trajectory going, that's worrying, where less and less fans are going to be traveling. And let's not kid ourselves. When Celtic supporters travel, I mean, that's spreading the word, essentially. Everywhere we go, people love seeing Celtic supporters, or if they're not familiar with Celtic supporters and they see Celtic supporters, like, wow, it's just fantastic. I mean, that's part of the essence of the club. That's something that really needs to be protected, and not just protected, but really encouraged. And we're in a situation where all the chips are stacked against anybody who wants to travel. I mean, they got rid of Thomas Cook, and I don't think it's gotten any much better. If it's gotten better at all, maybe worse. And that's troubling. And the other aspect of this that I think really dovetails on the disconnect between the board and the support generally, and even domestically, is the fact that, I mean, you're starting to see scenes where think back to Barcelona this past December, where our away support is gone, and somehow they're tipped off that there's going to be this unruly mob that's going to just set siege to the Camp Nou, and you need to have all men on deck and the utmost diligence against possible riots, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, who are you talking about? I mean, talk about a disconnect with your own support. Who are you talking about? I mean, it's almost like they're talking about a different club. I mean, these are all aspects that are discouraging more and more people from traveling, and it's sad for me to say.
Yeah, I mean, well, official travel is effectively asking you to pay for one game the equivalent of what you pay for an entire season at Celtic Park, and none of them see the problem. And do you know why none of them sees the problem? Because none of the people make decisions will ever have to pay that. None of the people making decisions have ever paid that. in their entire life. None of the people making these decisions have ever sat on their computer when a draw's getting made and had Ryanair open at one page and EasyJet open at another page and British Airways open at another page and Skyscanner open at another page, dying to get flights because they just don't care. All they care about is the bottom line. Well, here is the bottom line. The bottom line is you're destroying your away support. You're absolutely destroying it. Whereas guys that went everywhere with Celtic, and I mean everywhere, none of them go now. None of them go now. How does that make Celtic look good? And as you say, you know, these people are the PR that Celtic need. These are the guys that go around Europe and sell your football club to everywhere they go.
Absolutely.
And you're denying them the privilege of actually going there and able to do that. And that's wrong. There has to be, you know, there's far too many. It's the same Lemcrim as we are the only club I know that have, when we have a draw against Europe, where we decide a kick-off time and a ticket price and a venue based on what an ex-policeman thinks that works at Celtic, who's never, ever, ever paid into a Celtic game in his entire life. He's the one making the decisions. Absolutely disgraceful. You know what I mean? If this club isn't about the fans, then it's about nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I tell you, I'm sick to death of Celtic selling out continual things. If it's not this last year, it's the away tickets, and if it's not that, it's European travel, and you just sell it out and sell it out and sell it out. Now it's time to bring something back.
Next topic. We know now, after today's result, Legia Warsaw is going to be our next opponent. I think there was a general calm when the draw came out where it was either going to be St. Pat's or Legia Warsaw. Your thoughts here, you know, in terms of coming up against this opponent? It seems as though, I don't know. I mean, here we're coming up against a team that's not going to be in the middle of their season like the Scandinavian clubs that we seem to always get drawn against. What's your vibe going into this time?
Well, I mean, I think that, St. Pat's, a couple of people fancy them and that kind of thing. I think people in Ireland will tell you the Irish League isn't as strong as it has been in the previous few years, so it was kind of like, the bookies priced Legia Warsaw at 46 tonight, St. Pat's were 72, and the bookies very rarely get it wrong. I don't know a lot about Legia Warsaw. I heard some fucking, people at Celtic, shall we say, I was going to see someone else there say, oh my God, Warsaw, they're all nutcases and all that kind of thing. It's like, aye, right, okay, fine. So, at the end of the day, Graham, we should not be worrying about teams like Legia Warsaw because, as you say, one of the things that always worries everybody, and we heard it all in the last round, oh my God, the cake. I can think, yeah, well, look how that worked out for them. Legia Ernie. And nobody, not one of their players, should have the ability to even get in our team, far less beat our team. So we should be playing them away from home. I think it's next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we should not have an issue. I don't know what you feel, but that's how I feel. I
like having the away tie first. It gives us a chance to get, the away goal or goals, as it were. Legia won the Polish League last season. The Polish League has just started. So as I mentioned before, we're not going up against a team that, is in the middle of their season. All their players are fit, et cetera, et cetera. They're basically in the same camp that we are. But with that being said, they went up against St. Pat's. They had a sparkling performance, I suppose, given the scoreline. Their supporters are, sort of renowned throughout Europe as being vocal. We'll just say we'll leave it at that. I don't think much more needs to be said. They're just a bit of background. They're the Polish Army team. I think their best finish within Europe was the quarterfinal of the European Cup in '96. They were also in the semifinal of the Cup Winners' Cup in '91, losing to Manchester United. Best player on their team, or I guess the leading scorer in their team is Miroslav Radovic. He's a midfielder, a bit of a lanky winger, 5'11", had 14 goals in 35 games last season. So it's not as if we're going against a team that has a prolific player. Goals being poured in from all sorts of different directions. And like you said, this is a team that really can't stand toe to toe with us. I would expect us to be able to handle them and and get through. Go ahead.
I think that obviously the talk always is before these games. It's like, well, we'd like to get St. Pat's because the travelling would be better. It's like, come on. the flight to Warsaw, what is it, an extra packet of peanuts? You know, it's just like, it's not really that big a deal. You know, we're not talking, you know, we're not going to Singapore here. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think the games that we've got under our belt, and, you know, I don't know, given the fact that we are in Germany on Saturday, Graham, I don't know if there's any point whatsoever in coming back to Scotland. I'm sure they'll kind of hum and haw with that kind of thing. But, yeah, I mean, the fact that we're away from home first is good. And looking at the whole groundswell of the teams we could play, Graham, we should not really have any problems. We can go on to death about the fact that we're having to play these 3 qualifiers and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, Legia Warsaw, if we go to win the Champions League, we'd be saying, what's that? 6 points.
Next topic: the Commonwealth Games have begun, Paul. I know nothing about it being here in America. It's not even on any of the television. But judging from my Twitter timeline, it's an absolute it's an absolute embarrassment in some senses. The opening ceremony, especially. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, I give it as much interest as I do what's happening in the French Polynesia elections. It just has no... Look, there is a groundswell of people out there who are like, oh my God, the Commonwealth Games and the Scottish athletes and that. Like, shut up. You didn't care. Nobody cares. And I couldn't care if it's Celtic Park, fucking Cathkin Park or Strathclyde Park. I do not care. And I will tell you now, I will not watch a minute. And that's not someone who's a bitter old man or anything like that. I'm not interested in athletics. I never have been and I never will be. Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't care less. I mean, the Queen or that kind of thing. I'm against the whole thing, the Empire. Nobody got fucking wealthy off this Commonwealth nonsense. It was all about people, you know, just robbing people. Secondly, I seen somebody saying last night, there's going to be 1.8 billion watching the opening ceremony, so therefore it's good for Celtic. So you're trying to tell me that 3 times the amount of people that watched Germany-Argentina World Cup final are going to watch the opening fucking ceremony of the Commonwealth Games. And then I found out, well, that's if everybody in India watches it. Nobody in India cares, because you know who was raped most by the Commonwealth? Fucking India. Yeah. So why would they give a fuck? So, nah, I didn't care. I really didn't care. And I'm actually offended by the whole thing. And I'm disgusted by anybody who is interested in the Empire Games, is interested in the fucking Nazi baton relay that's going on in Scotland. And also, I extend my hand to the people of Dalmarnock who have to have their kids on a curfew and are not allowed to their houses at certain times and so on and so forth. And I heard last night, Graham, from residents of Dalmarnock that they intend to have a firework protest. And I say, good on them. Do you know what I mean? Because we're living in 2014 and they've got an era here which has the lowest mortality rate in Western Europe that all of a sudden the establishment needs and now the spotlight's under. And what does happen when the spotlight goes under them, Graham? They get told, stay in your house. Keep your kids away. We didn't want to see them. We're not interested. Fuck on him. Get the people of Dalmarnock out. Get the people of the East End out. And fuck everybody that's got the Commonwealth Games.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, to your point, when the Commonwealth Games leave, nobody cares about, you know, the safety on the streets of Dalmarnock or any other place in the Glasgow area. You know, it's only to serve their needs and to suit them. And this is all a big kabuki spectacle. Let's not kid ourselves. You know, for England to come out and, you know, try and, you know, beat its chest as if it's a world power still. When, I mean, it's just, it's nonsense. You know, 1.8 billion people watching. I mean, you know, people in India only care about cricket. I mean, I don't think I'm being, you know, stereotypically generalized, you know, or anything else like that. That's basically it, right? I mean, who cares about, you know, the sprinting in India? Is anybody you know really going to pay attention to that? Is that even going to make the papers?
But Graham, it's this fucking pomp and pomposity, the fucking Queen and all these arseholes. Have you not got any self-awareness? Given the fact that you're knighting fucking paedophiles left, right and centre, and given the fact that your government is clearly fucking corrupt, is clearly part of this ongoing onslaught and fucking genocide in Gaza, haven't you got the balls to just stand up and say, maybe we shouldn't go on the telly, maybe we shouldn't stand here and fucking breed our fucking complete and utter privilege through our, no, of course, we'll stand here, okay, like, we're all great and yous are all wankers and you need to fucking bow at us. Well, fuck them, you know what I mean? And I didn't give a fuck what Celtic go to yet, because the frontage, I couldn't give a fuck, there was no frontage at Celtic Park. It's absolutely wrong. And fucking fuck all the journalists as well who stand there and tell us, oh, this is fantastic and this is... bollocks. You're doing it to keep the wages going in the bank. You should be ashamed of yourselves for no standing up to this nonsense, because that's all it is. It's utter nonsense. And while I'm on that point, I should say the James Connolly Society, fair fucking play to you for standing up and going to the Celtic Park tonight and saying no to the Empire Games, because that's what every like-minded citizen in Scotland should be doing.
I mean, is Celtic getting any sort of good PR out of this, though? I mean, the Celtic Twitter feed that we've mentioned in the past, which has basically become an embarrassment as of late. I mean, over the past 48 hours, they've thanked everybody that's coming through. I mean, they've thanked the janitors, they've thanked the food staff, they've thanked this person, they've thanked that. Some guy jumping out of a plane. Hey, there goes a plane. Thank you to this. I mean, you're a football club. This is Celtic Football Club. I mean, what sort of PR are we getting out of this? I mean, other than the Tongan guy, which is absolutely brilliant. He wears the Celtic jersey out there, and then he comes on Twitter and says, if Tonga has any problem with it, fuck him. I like that guy. But other than that, I mean, is Celtic being lifted up on high on the world stage?
Well, I mean, if they are, I don't know about it, because if we get one new season ticket holder, and I'll be absolutely amazed. Do you know what I mean? Because I tell you right now, it's like Celtic are basically just bending the knee and letting them do whatever they want, and that's why we were all sitting in Edinburgh last night at a supposed home game rather than at Celtic Park. If that sits well, people, fine, no problem, you go for it. That's not the Celtic I grew up with.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a situation where, I mean, Celtic Park is by far and away the best venue to have, all these ceremonies and everything else. So it's naturally going to be Celtic that was going to be chosen, for the venue for this. I mean, Ibrox couldn't host the virus. Hampden, has all the charm of a date rapist. I mean, what sort of spectacle is this? Who cares? Like, seriously. I mean, it's
exactly. Who cares? I mean, what I didn't even know the level of athletes that are there. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't want to know anything about it. It's just a complete and utter load of shite. And what annoys me is the fact that the East End of Glasgow, a place that I've went to for 40 fucking years and loved for 40 fucking years, was untouched for 40 years until the establishment needed it.
Next topic. Let's get back to Celtic. What position at this point are we in most dire need of filling?
Probably striker, Graham.
Yeah.
Probably a focal point. I don't know what you think. I mean, you can see right now, I mean, you see Griffiths last night, he's kind of pushed out in the wide, and he's kind of lost there, and, he tries his best and whatever, but he's never going to be that guy. And you can see what kind of Dyler's trying to do with McGregor, and Pookie's moved in there, and Commons is just being Commons, and so on and so forth. But we'll play teams that are better than Reykjavik, and therefore we'll need different options. Yeah. I know Amido Baldy's had tragedy in his personal life with his father, and I hope he rests in peace. But we all know he's not the answer. We also all know that Samaras is not coming back, so we can forget that kind of nonsense. And I even heard people around him say, no, he's not coming back. So I think we need a striker. I think the defence is as good as it'll ever be as long as we're at this level.
Agreed.
Really, really good. The goalkeeper we've talked about. Midfield, we'll miss Brown, but I tell you, Stefan Johansson, fantastic. Good to see that Ronnie's no fell for Kayal's nonsense. He's on the bench. Charlie Mulgrew fits and starts for the SPL. Never going to be good enough for the Champions League in that position. And the wingers are obviously going to be addressed. But I think if we get a striker, Graham, and by the way, it's no easy. I had this long conversation with people last night about it's no easy to just pick up a striker that's as good that we need. Yep. At the market we are fishing in, you know what I mean, Graham?
Yeah. It's not as if like we can just look for specific clubs and there's going to be a Gary Hooper, they're waiting once again. I mean, we caught lightning in a bottle, so to speak, and we were fortunate by the fact that no other teams noticed the fact that he scored 22 goals in the championship. I mean, albeit with Scunthorpe, but nonetheless, you see what happened with Andy Carroll and how much money was thrown at him and where he's turned out, and remains to be seen with Gary Hooper. But what he did was Celtic can't be denied, and it's not as if it's going to be an easy task to replace him, but replace him we must, and we still haven't done that. And in spite of the fact that I've heaped loads of praise on Lee Griffiths, and the impact that he had on the club when he came in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. But think back to before Lee Griffiths came on. I mean, we're absolutely anemic. I mean, relying so consistently, I mean, week after week on Chris Commons, and Chris Commons isn't getting any younger. We're going to need some cover, in terms of somebody that's going to be a predator, somebody that's going to score goals. And I think striker is the absolute utmost need at this point. There's some strikers who are at the club just now who probably are maybe being viewed as surplus to requirements, maybe are going to be moving out, and that's going to lead to a further need, to strengthen that position.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's put cards on the table here. I would be utterly amazed if Anthony Stokes is there beyond the transfer window. The vibe seems to be that he's just surplus to requirements, as you said, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's because of the handshake that never was, if you like, or anything like that. If it was his I don't actually know. I'm not going to speculate. But what I do know is that the vibe right now is that Anthony Stokes is now surplus to requirements. So, as you say, that leaves position. And, of course, we had Mr. Watt on the bench last night, who was looked pretty sharp in the warm-ups that I've seen, before the game, half-time and stuff like that. He was very responsive to the fans, which was good. Young guy shouting his name and he was waving and all that kind of thing. He might be the guy, I don't know. But, I kind of like the fact, Graham, that Dyla hasn't just jumped into the transfer market straight away. He's assessing the squad right now. I mean, this is a guy who basically had 2-3 days before he knew he was going to be a Celtic manager. I don't think yet he's had the time since then, Graham, that can then assess the entire squad and say, like keep him, and sell him. So, because at the end of the day, the guy has managed 2 competitive football matches. Yeah. So, therefore, he has to take it time. And the reality is, of course, he's basically gone through his mini-season right now, which is the Champions League. The start of the SPL for us is the 13th of August. A hell of a long time away still in relative terms. And I like the fact that the guy's stamping his authority. I believe that he put the kibosh on us playing any kind of friendly on the 9th of August. He does far too many games as it is. These nonsensical friendlies. Furious about the fact we're playing St. Pauli. Furious about the fact we're playing Spurs in Helsinki. Doesn't see the need for it. Because at the end of the day, Graham, if we play all these qualifiers for Europe, that's 6 games already, which is already a pre-season. Therefore, more than ample time to assess the squad. And I think that Ronnie will certainly not be backwards and coming forwards when it comes to replacing and to add in what we need.
Yeah, I agree. That's an excellent point. Talking about his ability to see what we have and see what we are going to need that is going to fit into his system. He has a concept, he has a philosophy in his mind of where we're going to be, and he needs time to figure out, are these the players that are going to be the ones that can execute that. And let's not forget the last time that we came out of a World Cup and we were able to bring in so much talent from some of the smaller countries. I mean, Izagiri comes to mind from that we just sort of picked out of that World Cup. And players are coming back from the World Cup just now, getting settled in. I'm sure that there are some targets that were assessed from that. So I think it's a good point not to be too hasty in that. But with that being said, we are going to need cover in certain positions. I mean, I wouldn't mind, one other defender, maybe a left back. I mean, I think, to your point, I don't know if Charlie McGrew is any more than good cover at center half, certainly, and maybe at left back, but another left back that can come in and cover for Izagiri. I mean, Twardzik been in there and he's showing he's showing a lot of life, and that's great to see. One of the academy players, but you can never really have too much cover there as well. But
well, one thing I'll say as well, Graham, is Ronnie Dyla, he knows the score. But something I heard last night which tickled me, might tickle you, might tickle one or two people listening, was that when he came into Celtic and was introduced to all the staff, hi, I'm Ronnie, boom, 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 all that kind of thing, he went to someone who will remain nameless, but this person works for the hospitality department, shook this person's hand, and the person said back to him, I'm so glad you're here because nae cunt wanted Owen Coyle. And Ronnie just looked at the person and was like, okay, and moved on. So
welcome to Glasgow.
I would suggest that Mr. Dyla, since being the manager of Celtic, has went through a crash course in what it's like to be Celtic manager.
That's why people listen, Paul. Next topic is the brother. We talked about St. Pauli. Is the brotherhood between Celtic and St. Pauli supporters as strong as ever, in your mind?
Yeah, I didn't see why not. I mean, my background in terms of St. Pauli, Graham, would be, I first remember St. Pauli fans, or being aware of St. Pauli fans, when we played German Lekeren in Belgium, which would be 1991, Mick Galloway scored on a 1-1 draw, Peach in the top corner, and there was a good Celtic support there that night, and I was kind of in the bar, as we do, outside. I was about 17-year-old, and here was all these big sort of punk guys kicking about. So, of course, being, tolerant Scottish people, we were all like, who the fuck are these cunts, What a square go. And it turned out they were St. Pauli fans, and it was like, well, who the fuck's St. Pauli? And then you see the Jolly Roger, if you like, the banners and stuff like that. And we then, through things like Tal Fanzine, and they became more aware of what was going on and who they were and all that kind of thing, formed a bond which I think personally, Graham, is so strong that it'll never evaporate. It'll never get, and I think it's fantastic that Celtic are going there to play on Saturday because, it's sort of, I suppose we have been there before for the new stadium, and they've also got safe standing, by the way, at St. Pauli, which people at Celtic are going over to have a look at. There's a big meeting on August 8th about safe standing. We'll not tell anybody that, Graham. I'm just telling you, nobody else. To hopefully rubber stamp that.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think, it's fantastic. Clearly, look, same beliefs as I would say the vast majority of Celtic supporters. Loads of great things that have happened over the years and tie-ins, and they've been to see us and we've been to see them and all that kind of thing. And also, Graham, the fact was that Tony Mowbray introduced the huddle to Celtic at St. Pauli's old ground in 1995. So there's wee bits of Celtic history in throughout it. And, I hope everybody going there on Saturday has a great time. I've been to Hamburg personally myself. I was involved in a lot of hassle in Hamburg because of my own stupidity, because I was trying to set fire to a pub called The Londoner. That's another story.
Who hasn't?
And, the Reaper Band, all that kind of thing. Fantastic. So, yeah, look, as far as I'm concerned, anybody with the views of people who support St. Pauli will always be welcome at Celtic Park, and they'll always be part of my brotherhood.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. What infuses the Celtic support and the St. Pauli supporters is this isn't a merchandising opportunity, or a slogan or some sort of marketing think up. This is the ethos of each club, and this is how they came together. St. Pauli and Celtic supporters, the common bond of their political mindset, of their way of being, how they support their clubs, and that's something that you can't just rip apart. That's always going to be there. People, so many Celtic supporters have, as their second club, St. Pauli, and vice versa. And that's another aspect. We talked a little bit about how well Celtic supporters travel, and every time a Celtic supporter, travels over to Hamburg and sees St. Pauli, they know that they're in for a great time. They're going to be well looked after. They're going to be with like-minded people, and that's something that's very, very special, and something that it can't be appreciated enough. In my opinion.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Joe Miller, average Joe Miller, if not of you, has travelled over regularly to St. Pauli, to the Millen Tour and all that kind of thing over the years, for many, many years. And these people, clearly you hear the anti-fascist thing and that kind of thing, but it's much, much more than that. They've embraced Celtic as Celtic fans have embraced them. And, I can remember going to Celtic games in Bern and places like that, and even Lisbon, and seeing St. Pauli fans. And seeing fans, because, St. Pauli was never the only club, Graham, that attached herself. I've seen Borussia Dortmund fans, FC Kazice, all that kind of thing, because we played them. And that goes back to, so Celtic then try and make sure that all the guys that made that happen, then they go to European away games now. So the Dortmund fans, Borussia Dortmund are clearly a huge club and that kind of thing, we're all kind of looking and saying, why on earth do you have this attachment to this so-called small club in Hamburg? But that was the kind of tie-in, and it's kind of like, I think sometimes, Graham, in this kind of corporate modern football world we live in, we can forget the fact that here's St. Pauli, here's this living, breathing organism, when it's no like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, we just don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. We're anti-fascist, we're rebels, this is who we are, and if you didn't like it, go and fuck yourself. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, no question about it. Last topic, and as has been a theme.
It's been quick.
Has been quick. Seems like it's flown by.
It has. It has, like a Delta jet.
As quickly as the whiskers disappeared from my very face. We'll get into that later.
Jesus, I didn't know what road you were going to go down there when you started talking about whiskers.
No. So as we've done this season with the 10inaRow Celtic Show, we've highlighted a social media presence each week. And there's been some build-up with this. People are nervous. I can tell, Paul, people are nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous, Graham. I'm nervous.
Everybody has their guard up. This week, we're going to highlight.
Like Larry Holmes.
Reading, Pennsylvania. This week, we're going to highlight Celtic FC SLO on Twitter. Everybody knows it's John Paul Taylor. Does John Paul have the most difficult job on Twitter?
Aye, well, as long as Paul Lee's on fucking Twitter, he does, that's for sure. Christ almighty, it's, I don't know how the hell he does it. I really do not know how the hell he does it, because I'm sure people are aware. If not, I'll tell them. John Paul is just John Paul. He is the supporters liaison officer. He doesn't have a staff. He doesn't have an assistant. He's the one that answers all the tweets. He's the one that answers all the emails. He's the one that answers all the phone calls. He's the one that comes down to see you, and he's the one that solves all your problems on his own. Now, how on earth he manages to do that is beyond me. It really is beyond me. And I spent a lot of time with him yesterday before the game, and he's still. It's amazing how. I mean, I have a strong personal relationship with the guy. I've known him for a long, long time, way beyond Celtic and that, and we have a great relationship. And so I talk to him in that kind of, as you would with somebody you've known that long. And it's amazing how he can then talk to a fan and just switch back onto supporters liaison officer mode. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be that kind of professional, because he doesn't get any time off for it. You know what I mean? He really doesn't get any time off for it. So, and, you know, I think you touched on it earlier, Graham. I think it's a mute point, is the fact that he doesn't get helped by other people at Celtic.
No.
And some of the tweets and the shite that they say and do, which then lead to 200 people saying, what the fuck's this all about, to him? And anybody who knows him, Graham, and anybody who speaks to him can tell you that he is far more in tune with what we think than certain other people who work for that club will ever think.
Yeah.
Because he is one of us. Yeah. He's one of the guys that I spoke about, which went to all the games on buses in Europe in the 80s and 90s.
And that's who you want in that position.
Yeah, we had a discussion yesterday about how much it cost £600 to go to Aalborg, which was my last European away game. That's how long ago it was that I could price do it. Cost us a fortune, £600 each. And he said at the time, he was away for Celtic then, because he'd left in May 08, and this was in December 08. That there's no way he could justify that kind of money now to go. And he only gets to go to certain games, like he was in Iceland last week, because he was on the club, you know, whatever.
Right.
And that comes down to, that's not a standard thing, Graham. That's not like he's going to go to every away game. That's Peter Lawwell saying, aye, maybe you should come.
Yeah.
That's it. So, you know, you've had dealings with him. I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast has either had dealings with him or watched him deal with people. And I tell you right now, I don't know how he can do it, but I'll say this, Graham. If anybody could do it, it's him.
Well, and I think that that's an apt question for everybody who wants to throw, stick his way. I mean, ask yourself, could you do a better job? And think about it in the context of every sort of complaint, every malady that anybody has with the club goes directly to him. And think about how many Celtic supporters there are around the world. And think about how easy it is for Celtic supporters to get in touch. I mean, he throws himself out there on Twitter and elsewhere on social media. So, I mean, it's a constant, nonstop barrage of complaints about the club. And this is coming from somebody who complains as much as most. It's a thankless position. But as you pointed out, in terms of who you want in that chair, that's exactly who you want. You want somebody that is one of us, that knows the score, knows what it's like to be in our position, has been there himself. And it's a yeoman's work. I mean, it's the type of thing where he takes all of this, but it's not him that makes the decisions as to whether or not certain complaints are going to be rectified. All he can do is pass it on. And there's got to be a certain frustration level from his take. I mean, I don't want to represent him, directly, because I don't know him as well as you, and I'm not him. But I can imagine. I mean, it just must be unbelievably frustrating almost constantly, especially given the fact that it's the club that he loves. I mean, and he only wants the best for the club. But at the end of the day, that's his job, and he puts himself out there, and I think that he handles it extremely, extremely well. I mean, he doesn't respond to people. I mean, I don't want to throw Paul Lee out there, but yeah, people like Paul Lee, that just at times just throw a nonstop barrage. I mean, he handles it extremely, extremely well.
Well, what I'll say about that, Graham, as well, is the caveat I'd give for Paul Lee is I know for a fact that Paul Lee will say criticism, but will also say, I understand that, you bear the brunt of this and so on, and, all that kind of thing. They're not just throwing non-stop shit. But, I mean, I had the discussion with John yesterday about, we were talking about just Celtic in general. We're talking about Paul McStay, actually, and we're talking about his upcoming game and whatever. And how the fact that when me and John was growing up watching Celtic and going to watch Celtic together and whatever, we were spoiled by guys like Paul McStay and Tommy Burns, Packy Bonner, who just weren't the only great football players, Graham, but they actually understood Celtic Football Club and completely and continued to promote it whenever they spoke. Whenever they mentioned anything on an interview, the fans were the first thing they spoke about. Paul always talked about Celtic. Without the fans, it was nothing. And Tommy always talked about the fact that everything we do is for the supporters. And Packy Bonner always talk about the fact that Celtic was great because of the fans. That's what made it great. And you kind of go into an era now where you have heroes and you have people that you admire, but they never really talk in those terms because it's different. Do you know what I mean? And John fucking understands that more as much as anybody, Graham. You know what I mean? Which is why he kind of got the job. And as you said, he's effectively the buffer between us and Peter Lawwell. Emphasise on the word buffer, not decision maker. He can only relay what we are saying to Peter Lawwell. And Peter Lawwell and Dermot Desmond will be the ones who ultimately make the decisions, Graham. You know what I mean? They'll be ultimately the ones making it. Now, it's been apparent to most people that, excuse me, I'm sorry, Dermot's been at the last two competitive games.
Yay!
And he was there with a squad. Here's a wee exclusive for all you listeners that are still listening. He was with a wee squad for Boston.
The developmental team, the kids?
Who may or may not be linked to a certain John Henry.
Okay.
So let's go down that road. But these are Peter Lawwell and Dermot Desmond are the two people that John would answer to. And people might have any opinion you want to Peter Lawwell and have any opinion you want to Dermot Desmond. But I'll tell you now, as he always says, it's easier to answer to they two than to answer to the entire Celtic support, which is effectively what he does.
Yeah, and we salute him for doing it. It's a great job that he does, and once again, when I ask myself, I mean, could I do it, and could I do it better than him? Absolutely not. So
no.
John Paul, we salute you. And that wraps up. Oh, that's 9 in a row, Paul.
Oh, it's magic. You'll never beat 9 in a row. And they never, Graham. They couldn't beat it. Nope.
They died before they could even have the chance.
That's how fucking good it was. Yo ho ho, off we go. What do you know? 9 in a row. Bye bye Rangers. You should have had that set up. That was a great segue.
Bye Sevco. Well, we're on our way to 10 in a row now.
Oh God, the sooner the better. I tell you, this has been it's been one of the days, Graham, where because of a certain blog I put out, I have had probably half of Scotland abusing me today.
Well, I think half of Scotland listened to our last interview, by the way, which got a lot of good feedback about.
Yeah, because obviously I put the blog out to come sort of, not to put too fine a point, it completely demolished the piss about state aid. And it might have hit a nerve with a few people who were about to release a book which said that Celtic got all the benefits of the Commonwealth Games and Sevco and Rangers got nothing. And then I thought, because when's the Perma Rage going to be at the highest point? It's going to be at the time when the opening ceremony is at Celtic Park. Let's put it out that day. And I could tell straight away, sometimes these blogs, you put them out and it takes a while for it to catch fire, or it might not catch fire at all, or whatever. This one, boom. And then the abuse started, boom, 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 boom. It was like George Foreman against fucking Ali and Zaire, ding, 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 ding. 7 rounds. And eventually it was like Ali giving it, we're going to dance here. And the support started, it was like fucking, keep going, George, is that what you got? Is that what you got? Bang, bang, bang. And serial abusers, even the absolute fucking really brave chap, Graham, who was the guy who threatened my son, if you remember, sent my son death threats and all that kind of. A really, really brave guy who I've seen engaging with people and all that kind of thing, and people are saying to me, it's like, oh God, that's, what's he was saying this, and he's saying that, and blah blah blah, and that kind of thing. No, I say I'm not saying anything to him, and I'm imploring people on Twitter and DMs and stuff, don't say anything to him and that kind of thing. It's why I know, and I'll say to him again, as I said to you before, Graham, if I can get that close to Murray and fucking White and all these dicks, I mean, how close do you think I can get to somebody like fucking him?
Absolutely.
Because his day will come as much as any of them.
Absolutely.
But I'm just sitting here now, focused on the prize, and trying, among me, a lot of other people, to demolish all the shit that comes out the Ibrox and comes out the follow moves about, oh, Celtic getting the state aid and we looking at it, and there's a papal conspiracy about the Commonwealth Games. Well, actually, look, that's why you're in California, you stupid fucks. And even some Celtic supporters said, but what's the scandal here? I can understand why you're putting this out there, but the zombies are just taking advantage of something. Of course they should get money for them being at Ibrox. I said, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, meanwhile...
in the same way that we should get something for them being at Celtic Park. That's the fucking point. Nobody benefited any more than anybody else. There wasn't a papal conspiracy. Peter Lawwell's unseen fiend in hand didn't run the Commonwealth Games. And your stupid books and your stupid fucking conspiracy, Illuminati pish, is exactly that.
Illuminati pish. The champ is here. The champ is here. And his name is Paul Arkin. The front of the bus.blogspot.com. If you haven't seen the blog yet. And basically, this should be daily viewing for everybody. I mean, what you're breaking is coming fast and furious. And, and long may it last.
You see, the thing is, Graham, right? And I'll say this, and you know what? I wasn't going to say this, right? But fuck it.
Fuck it.
Often I get abuse, and today was absolutely vitriolic. I had both my sons threatened, I had myself threatened, I had my mother threatened, I had all this kind of thing threatened, and I even had, this is the worst thing in the lot, because I can fucking block all that shit, right? And I can fucking stand in front of it. You know what I had somebody do to me today? I had somebody send me a fucking photo of Phil O'Donnell's coffin. And
Jesus
say,
Christ.
that's what anyway. And you say, and you know what I say to these people? I am glad you're fucking dead. Every time you send me something like that, the fucking onslaught continues.
And they're hurting. I mean,
every fucking time you think my foot comes off your throat, it gets fucking stronger with the times you send me that kind of thing. How dare you send a man and try and demean a man like Phil O'Donnell, who's fucking worth $1 million of you pricks? Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the level they're at. I'm not fucking going out there and slagging off people's deaths and slagging off this and slagging off that. I could demolish half these fucking pricks. Craig Houston, Chris Graham, every single one of them. They've all got skeletons. I know what they fucking all are. I would never put that shit out because it doesn't fucking matter. So all you idiots that do these kind of things, keep doing it, because I tell you, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. And all your heroes, your Nacho Novos and your John Browns, I'll fucking expose the rest of them as well for the corrupt pricks that they are and how they fuck the whole lot of yous. You just keep pushing me and I'll push 10 times harder back. Sorry about that.
He doesn't care what they say, as long as they're talking about it.
And it basically it confirms the fact that they are hurting. Wow, Ally McCoist is in California singing Beach Boys. I mean, it's not as if they're going on some award tour, like some parade through America of glory and honor. I mean, getting beat off of semi-amateur teams on NFL pitches.
You're in the perfect chair, Graham. Can you just explain to the listeners the level of the teams they're playing right now?
So the Ventura County Fusion, which is, it sounds like...
Is that East Ventura or no?
Yeah, well, they are talking out of their ass. Basically, these are clubs that are set up within America, and America's massive. I mean, it's a huge country, and the soccer playing population is spread out. I mean, there's sort of central hotbeds. I live in the middle of one of them, and Southern California is one as well, especially with a sort of a Hispanic presence there as well. But you have these clubs, these we don't have the championship or the first division or second division. You have the MLS, and that's basically it. It's a single entity, and then you have these other leagues that are set up like they have USL, so they have USL 1, USL 2. And then they have UDL just underneath that. I mean, it almost with all the acronyms, it's like a spy agency or something. It's like a step away from the NSA. But essentially, these are players that played in either in university or they were in developmental academies, didn't get picked up by any professional clubs, either in the second or third division, especially the MLS, but they're trying to keep fit. They're trying to develop themselves. They're trying to get a look in so that they can move up the echelon, I guess, if you will. It's sort of like conference football to a certain extent, but they get paid nothing. And the highlight of their season, as it were, would be, maybe making it through the U.S. Open Cup, which is our version of the FA Cup, maybe making it to the first or second round, maybe beating one or two teams with that. I mean, they can't even compete with, say, like the Rochester Rhinos would demolish the Ventura County Fusion. So put that in the context however you want. Now, granted, Celtic have gone over and played against American sides in the past. I mean, they've all been MLS sides, but they've lost, to DC United, they've lost to Philadelphia Union. But this is so far beyond the realm, of coming over. You can't just point to it and say, oh, it's the beginning of our season, we're not fit or whatever. These are guys that, they have probably 2 and 3 jobs aside from what they're doing, with their club. As it were. I mean, it's an absolute embarrassment, to lose against Ventura County Fusion 3-1. I mean, get completely picked apart. And I believe they're playing against the Sacramento Nighthawks or whatever they are. Once again, playing against, some semi-pro team that's playing in a third-rung university gridiron stadium on artificial turf. I mean, they can't, talking about the partnerships with things like the Dallas Cowboys, they couldn't get a sniff. They couldn't get a sniff of any sort of established entity within America. They're taking the money that they got from the Commonwealth Games and basically financing airfare over here, and they're not getting a dime for playing these ditty teams.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the pitch they played on when they played Sacramento had the kind of state fair thing. Amusement park and all that kind of thing. And I was just looking at this going, and I mean, clearly with my ranting tonight, people are listening to the show going, oh my God, the author's dicks fucking went off the rails. Let's try and bring it back, Graham. What it reminded me was the fact that it looked like Coney Island. And it looked like they'd taken a team to Coney Island, and it put me in mind of the Warriors, Graham. And I remember a guy that played Ajax, a brilliant actor called James Remar, who went down to get the role, got the role of Walter Hill. He was the guy, and Lawrence got. And so he walked around Coney Island, big pardon, and he was just looking about, and he goes to a ball toss. And he just, he'd never been to Coney Island in his life, and he's trying to find out and he says to the guy, what kind of people come from Coney Island? And the guy who runs the ball toss turns around to him and says, the worst kind. and that just summed up what Sevco was doing at that fucking amusement park, playing on a pitch that wasn't even lined properly as a football pitch. It was clearly a college, and I say college loosely because college, I think, is a fucking level miles beyond what they were playing. Yeah. Kind of pitch, Graham. Yeah. Like Rydell High out of Greece.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And, let's play them. And then, let's play British Columbia. And as you say, I mean, that was the point. It's like Glasgow City Council paid for them to go and play friendlies. Now, just think about that, right? What did they do? Oh, we'll go to California. We're not that we're taking the piss or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Like, as if being in California, there's just automatically going to be glamour associated with it. Keep in mind the fact that California is a massive, massive state. It's not all like, the beach and surfing and all that kind of shit.
It's all rednecks, let's face it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not decrying them to California, but people have an image of California, they think Hollywood, and so Hollywood's a shithole. What people are actually thinking is Beverly Hills and Malibu. That's what the glamour is. Right. The rest of it is Hollywood Boulevard. That's a fucking rough place to go.
It is.
I've been there. You go to LAX, the first neighbourhood you're in is Inglewood. It's a hard fucking place. It's a bit like Trenchtown, Jamaica.
Well, I mean, think about the Guns N' Roses video, where Axl Rose is walking down the street and he looks in the window shop or whatever. He's walking down Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rough.
Yeah. The perfect example of that, not to go into a complete tangent, but fuck it, we're on 10inaRow, so we can do what we like.
Off we go. What do you know? Now 9. Sorry.
The film Deep Cover with Jeff Goldblum and Larry Fishburne, where the guys, the first thing he said in the film was Hollywood, Hollywood. and you see Hollywood sign, and then you see hookers, drug dealers, muggins, all that kind of thing, and that's Hollywood, Chinese theatre, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure the mentality, the density, the people who run Safeco was like, oh yeah, let's go to California, let's be the one. You know what, because you were shitting it to go to New York, and you were shitting it to go to Chicago, and you were shitting it to go to Philly, because you know you'd be met by a fucking army there saying, ha ha ha, you fucking idiots, this is how fucking low you go. As I say before, Jacques Cousteau couldn't get so low. So, yeah, fantastic. And, you know, I mean, they're lucky actually, because they were supposed to be playing this Saturday in the fucking Pontiac Training Cup or whatever it's called against Hibs, and they can't play there because of the Commonwealth Games. They moved it to the 5th of August or whatever. But yeah, it's fucking fantastic to see just how low they actually are.
They're hurt.
And of course, all these arseholes in the paper today, I can't wait till Rangers get back to the SPL. You know what, son? You'll have to wait a long time because they're dead.
Indeed. Absolutely. Well, in the meantime, you know, the Tribute Act is there for us to laugh at, for our amusement. And
yeah.
You know, you bring up the carnival aspect with it. I mean, it's all that Ali can do to stop half the team from defecting and running off with the circus.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the carnival aspect threw up two things. First of all was when the Carnies took over Homer Simpson's place. You know,
yes.
that was great.
Yep.
And then it was like when Ali McCoist was being interviewed over there, absolute nonsense. And it was like I literally felt like that scene in Zoolander where Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller are squaring up, and Ben Stiller's talking absolute nonsense, and Owen Wilson says, "Who are you trying to get crazy with? Don't you know I'm loco?" And that's what you needed a journalist to say to Ali McCoist. Do you think we're all fucking stupid? You know what I mean? It's like, Ali, you're talking shit constantly. When are you going to shut the fuck up? But of course he doesn't. And it's interesting to see that the bookies have made him second favourite for the sack race next season, or this season for all the non-entities, behind Alan Stubbs, because it's the bookies are fucking very rarely wrong, Graham. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's laughable, but as Celtic supporters, I mean, it's something that in this show, we get a lot of people saying, "What do you not talk about this with Safeco or that with Safeco?" It's like, because it doesn't really feature on the fucking, it's not on the reservation anymore, you know what I mean?
Why? Why bother?
Aye, I mean, we might, with the 10 in a row, the 10th in a row show, we might throw in a couple of things, and we might throw in a couple of, you know, extend it a wee bit, maybe throw 2 or 3 personal accounts, or certainly one I've got my eye on. But, you know, it's like, I sat there last night, Graham, and people were asking me, "Oh, you got to be filming and all that kind of thing." Well, I'm not going to reveal that, but yeah, we're going to be filming yesterday, secretly. And it's like, I'm sitting there, absolute bacon hot, Celtic are playing the Champions League on David Murray's fucking doorstep, and I'm just like, this is magic. Do you know what I mean? This is fucking magic. These are the golden years. We can hum and haw about what things going on off the park, and we'll always try and change them. But this is fucking fantastic. And then you go and watch a football team, and you sit there and people say, "Oh, is this Aguirre going to be fit? Is Ambrose going to be fit? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen?" None of the issues even exist, Graham, anymore. Because they walked in, they've done a professional job, and it's fantastic. And that's what Sefco have to compete with. They haven't even got a team that can compete with us yet. We've got a team that can compete with anybody. That's the fundamental difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have Europe to look forward to. I mean, we're debating how we can be competitive in the Champions League. And I think Ali needs to buy more tickets for the Tilt-A-Whirl. That's the gulf. That's the difference. Paul, let me ask you a hard-hitting question here, okay? I mean, you know, we're out of the we're out of the 10 in a row. I need to get your thoughts on this. You know, obviously, Commonwealth Games pish spilleth over.
Right.
Can we get Danny O'Connor out of retirement to fight this guy from Tonga for the world's toughest Tim in Celtic Park?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, I don't know about you, but here's my thinking, Graham. This might be out the box, and that's a great analogy for the boxing thing. I would think if I worked at Celtic and a guy called Danny O'Connor came over to Celtic Barcelona in 2012, what he was doing and how he was boxing, I'm guessing my immediate thought was, how on earth do we get this guy to box at Celtic Park? Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I'm just so out of step with marketing at Celtic. But that never happened. This guy, Danny, gave Celtic so much publicity.
Absolutely.
In the same way that Rod Stewart goes around the world and promotes us everywhere, and then he comes to Scotland, and where does he play? At fucking Falkirk. Eh? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Fuck me. Rod has got plenty of money. But for Christ's sake, you sell that stadium 10 times over, that man sings Maggie May. End of. Graham, there's a multitude of fucking things we could do. Yeah, get the Tonga boy. I've seen the Tonga boy. I never saw him. I believe he wore the top of the night. I never watched it. I know he had the top on Twitter ad nauseum. Great, fantastic. I think we miss out on so many of these kind of things, Graham. I think they're so guys. On one of these shows previously, Graham, correct me if I'm wrong, we talked up Ross McCall's efforts with Keith Sutherland.
Exactly.
We should be looking to do that every second, every minute, every fucking hour, every day.
There's so many revenue streams that we're not tapping into, and there's nobody at Celtic Park that's in tune with this. It's like, right, we catch lightning in a bottle, so to speak. We have sort of the 15 minutes of the buzz, and then it's gone. We just let it go.
Yeah. You have to sort of. It's like anything in football. The longer you do it, the more you keep it the same, the more it prospers. You have a team in the park, you mature it, you keep it going for a few years, and it gets better and better and better. That has to be your strategy. You focus on one place. We talked about in a couple of shows ago about how, Philadelphia, we thought was going to be the start of something. It looked like it was the actual end of something. I have heard numerous horror stories around that and various other things in America. Ireland, I was there on Sunday again. I was at Croke Park.
That's really where it needs to start.
Fuck me. It's like, you're going to Croke Park, there's 60,000 people there, you're standing for the national anthem, which I'm sure they've done 1 million times in that stadium. There's no sort of apathy, there's no kind of, oh God, here we go. It's not take me out to the ball game, do you know what I mean? It's like people standing there with the heart and the desire, and then you're watching amateur players who would fight a lion go and play and all that kind of thing. You're standing in front of Hill 16, which is built with the rubble in 1916. Built with the rubble in 1916, Graham. 98 fucking years ago. And it still stands there. And as people said to me on the Croke Park tour last year, Graham, that Celtic and the GAA were the two fucking organisations that kept the nationalist identity going when nobody wanted to know. Now, it's a nationalist identity that has fucking blossomed and is on the brink of capturing the 32 counties that we all cherish, and God bless the day that happens. But you just want people in there saying, when do we keep pushing at this kind of thing? Because there is a massive support in Ireland, absolutely huge, that needs addressed. There's a massive support in America that needs addressed. There's a massive support in Australia. Like, we've been to Australia twice in the last 5 years. Huge crowds at all the games we've played there. And then suddenly, boom, stops.
Yeah, nothing.
Are you kidding me on here? The first time we went down there was 31,000 Celtic supporters on the ground. We're talking a 25-hour flight for our home ground.
On the other side of the world, literally.
Yeah, literally. You've been down there. You know the score. You were on the Harley. You were picking up chicks. Sorry.
Hey.
Sorry, Elizabeth. But you know what I mean, though. How fucking long did it take you to get down there?
Forever.
And yet, the club that you support, to 3,500 miles away, could command 31,000 people to come and watch them play football in a fucking friendly.
With, half the team.
Yeah. Aye, exactly. Not a great Celtic team by any stretch of the imagination.
But just 11 guys wearing the hoops, going and playing against Central Coast Mariners or whatever. Yeah. When they come over here, playing against the Philadelphia, it doesn't even matter. It does.
You're correct. That's the fucking nail on the head there, Graham. It doesn't matter who the fuck we're playing. Real Madrid, Real Falkirk. It doesn't matter. What matters is the hoops are playing. The guys will go. You'll go. Everything's fucking great. You've got to keep fucking doing it. Yes, the discussion I keep talking about, because I believe the guys I was speaking to yesterday are a great barometer, because they just tell you how it is. We'd be doing this sort of shit if we didn't have to go through this nonsensical fucking 3 rounds and whatever. But there are opportunities. The east coast of America is 6.5, 7 hours on a flight. We could do that in January. We could do it in February. We could do it in fucking whenever. Do you know what I mean?
Christ, I'm a mess, and I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's true. And you spent your time in bloody Germany with some American bird trying to figure out who Americans were.
Oh, that was a great game. That was so much fun. I mean, think about it. You know, you're in the middle of Europe, and you know, you.
What part of Germany was that again?
I was Frankfurt. I had like a 2-hour layover in Frankfurt. Right, get off the plane, clear customs, et cetera, and you know, there's like this vestibule, or you know, it's just a bar right in the middle of the terminal. Right, I figure out where my next gate is, so I'm like, all right, I got time to burn. I'm a bit hungry. You know, let me get a gigantic stein of beer. You know, this ridiculously strong German beer. You know, I'm on holidays. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So I get a croissant, a beer. I get the last table in the place, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, and you know, there's like this fat American wanker, you know, that has like a Detroit Lions jacket walking through the terminal, just shouting his ass off, like, you know, oh Pat, the terminal's the other way. Come on, Pat. Get the kids, Pat. Come on. You know, it's like, Jesus Christ, you know. And then then you can tell everybody there is put off, you know, like, Jesus, ugly American. And then I'm like, I'm nervous to open my mouth, because then people are going to be like, oh, great, you know, here's another wanker. You related to him or whatever. So then, you know, this girl shows up, and there's only like one seat in the whole place that's open. I was like, well, you can sit here if you want. And she's like, and then as soon as I said it, I'm like, oh God, you know, here, ugly American. Like, I just assume that she speaks English. I'm in Germany. She could be from wherever the fuck. So then she says, oh, thank God. You know, I have a long layover. And I don't know. So she's American. I'm like, oh, okay, thank God. I'm not, you know, I'm not going to be you know, made to look like the mug that I am. So from then on, it was like, we were laughing about, you know, the guy in the Lions jacket. And then we were like, all right, let's spot the American. You know, it's because another guy walked through, and you could tell. I mean, high top trainers and, you know, sweatpants on. And I mean, just the way that they sort of dress and whatever, you can tell an American from a mile away. I'm like, guy's American. And it's like, oh, yeah, definitely. So the German guys next to us, who probably speak better English than we do, they pick up on our game. So they start playing. And then they're pointing out some other guy down there, like, yeah, I don't know, is he right there? I'm like, no, he's not American. His hair's too nice. Look at him. And then he comes through, and, you know, you hear him talk like, it's like, no, not American. I mean, it was just like an hour and a half of pure enjoyment. Spot the American.
So what I'm asking, and I'm going to speak for the rest of listeners, I think, that are still listening to this, because they'll all be asking this question, was that, you know, did you layer on a layover? Or?
No, stop. What are you, nuts? Stop it. Behave yourself.
I'm kidding, you fucks.
I had to go to Celtic Park that same very day. You know, you pick me up from the airport, we go straight to Celtic Park from Edinburgh. And it wasn't that hard, people. It wasn't that hard. We did the trip in reverse.
You look, Graham, you know me. People ask me, what's your wife do? I tell them, I say she signals ships with her jewellery. But I just had to ask that. But on the main theme, Graham, is the fact that you've obviously got an impending arrival, an impending extension to your family. So,
have I talked about this at all?
No. I'm not, and I'm not going to talk about it. What I'm going to ask you is, people want to know, what does this mean in terms of your visits to Celtic Park? When will the next one? Have you penciled anything in?
Oh God! It basically ends it. Yeah. Hey, Graham, are you coming to Celtic Park anytime soon?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, probably not. At least not for the near term.
The first couple of weeks after the birth.
Well, I mean, you gotta lay low for a little while. I mean, you gotta make sure that the child's sorted and everything else. But I mean, it'll be around Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll be at the last group stage game in the Champions League. Hopefully we have a home tie for the last one, so I'll make it up for that. No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Elizabeth will be fine with that. Well, she'll probably be sick to death of you by then anyway.
Well, she already is. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. That's why. Right? She just got home from work. She's sitting there like, God, I hope this show lasts longer. I'm about to go to bed. I don't even want to have to deal with him. But no, I mean,
wait now though. Wait, I'm not quite finished. Right, I'm going to ask you a question you never thought you'd heard asked on this show. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Drum roll, please. How's Hillary doing?
Are you insane?
About what?
Stop that.
What?
Stop.
Can't a man...
You're going to ask about my sister.
The feelings that he has. If a man can't express the feelings he has for a beautiful woman in his life, we're dead. The fucking life of society's crumbled.
I know where you're going with this. We're talking about my
I'll tell
sister.
you where I'm no going. It's a fucking club in Philadelphia that she never turned up to because we fucking ended up no getting in.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's a bad job right there.
That was unbelievable. Like,
it really was.
In fact, in all honesty, Graham, in all the lengthy time I've known you, spoke to you, loved you, and fondled you, I have never ever seen you ready to kill as much as you were that night.
Well, I mean, let's be look. I'm not much to look at, right? You know, I'm skinny, dangly, if you will. But I got skinny strength. I got skinny fury. I've expressed some of that fury on this show and others.
Yeah.
And I pick and choose my spots, and that was one of them. Unacceptable.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Philadelphia is a city of brotherly love, like.
Yeah. Well,
we never got much of it that night from the fucking cunts in the nightclub. That's for sure.
That's true.
And we were supposed to meet Hillary that night, right?
That's supposed to be my town.
I could have been your brother-in-law by now.
Look, I think that we were in the afterglow of our Darren Dalton fiasco, to be honest.
Oh, Darren Dalton, the Phillies catcher. He hates the Huns.
He hates the Huns. And then he responds with, you guys are assholes.
You fucking assholes. Darren Dalton. Please, if you're listening to the show, Google Darren Dalton, Phillies catcher. Look at the guy, permatan, big boned, let's say, that kind of thing. Look at the fucking woman he was with that night. My God. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, and it's not even a traveling pack. I mean, he goes from establishment to establishment, and it's almost like they're there waiting for him. They get word that he's coming, they assemble, and they just flock to him. He doesn't even need to travel with. He just, whatever's
seagulls,
whatever's there. Yeah, exactly. A flock of seagulls with a loaf of bread. Here you go. Nap.
Oh dear. He was a nice guy, though. He was. He could have easily just went hi and fucked off.
Right. But, he could have blanked us or whatever.
He took photographs and he was calling us assholes and whatever. It was really, really good. And I remember he texted my cousin in California, saying I just met Darren Dalton. He's like, holy shit, that's Dalton, you're fucking kidding me, So, yeah, it was fucking brilliant. Like, but I don't know how we went for Hillary to that, but, so...
You can't be my brother-in-law. Just saying that. You can't.
It'd be good, though. I mean, I can imagine, like, dinners at your house and stuff would be fantastic,
They would. Well, dinners in my house are good.
Yeah. Especially when you dress up.
That's true. Well, I mean, look, I know you have this concept in your mind, with all the selfies and the bow ties and shit. That's workwear.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That's workwear.
Fucking Pee Wee Herman.
No, Pee Wee Herman has the skinny diamond-pointed maroon-colored tie with a white shirt and the gray suit. That you need to watch out for. But you can spice it up a little bit. Get the purple in there.
Yeah.
Get the vibrant greens. I like the greens.
So what? I mean, so when did you sort of transcend into the waistcoat and bow tie thing? I mean, what's the end game here?
Hey, you got to change it up, man. You can't keep going with the same old bullshit tie. With the suit that doesn't fit. Plus, as we alluded to earlier, it's about 150 degrees here in Washington D.C. The general area. I can't wear a coat every day, so the waistcoat's a nice sort of happy medium. I can wear the long sleeve shirt, roll it up, so it's almost like a short sleeve shirt. You throw a bow tie in there, so it's less coverage, right? It's just up around your neck. So next thing you know, you're cool as a fan, and you're looking good. This is ingenuity.
I was watching the fashion show that they have in New York every year.
No.
Tribeca thing.
Oh, the Tribeca Film Festival.
Yeah, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it made me think of you because after it, the Zodiac film was on, and you look like the Zodiac killer in that bow tie and waistcoat.
Why does it always have to come to likening me to murderers? John Wayne Gacy. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Do you want me to tell you what it is, right? It's because somebody could come up to me and say, you know what? I just heard about this guy who was like ate his own dog and then joined the circus, and I'd be like, "Fuck off, you dick!" And then if he ended the sentence with "in America," I'd go, "All right, yeah." It just shit like that happens here. Everything's good in the world is in America, but also everything bad in the world is in America. Do you know what I mean? It's got the best and worst of everything, and you just kind of encompass that brilliantly. You know what I mean? It's like you're a devilishly handsome kind of man, with huge choppers like Mr. Ed and
True.
a dress sense that looks like fucking a cross between Oliver Twist and PB Herman.
Yeah, I'm a conundrum. I'm a walking conundrum.
Oliver, doodle-doodle.
Legger, Bobby.
And you go up to Elizabeth, please, can I have some more? And
Shut your hole, you dick.
and then 9 months later, she's having a baby. So,
It's fuck off your prick from me and fuck off your prick for him.
where's the barman, Jack? But I know, Still Game is about to explode in Scotland because they have the stage shows are going to happen in September.
And the sooner the better.
Well, believe it or not, Graham, they actually start the day after the referendum.
Well, that's a fitting celebration, I think.
Exactly. I don't think that was any coincidence. I think certainly Greg Hemphill, if anybody follows him on Twitter, would never have even dreamed of having a show on the night of the referendum because he'd be out there encouraging people to vote yes,
Yeah, God forbid.
But Still Game is it's going to go down in the annals with Billy Connolly, quite frankly, as just being as funny as fucking anything, And the fact that it extends to you in Washington, D.C. just sums up how good it is,
Boosh! Right in the Niagara Falls.
Have you showed that to American people?
Oh, no, fuck no. They would never get it. Certain people, I think, would, but it's just different. I think people would watch it and see me react and sort of laugh based off of that and be like, "What? Why are people being just like mean to each other all the time? Why is he always cursing? Is that on regular television?"
Well, isn't America at the minute going through a whole bullying thing?
Well, yeah, we've been going through the bullying thing for the past 50 years where we basically...
Yeah. I'm not talking about fucking America, the country, bullying people. Let's not go doing that because, the last thing we want to do is being political in this show, Graham.
True.
But
good point.
I keep hearing on American radio shows that bullying's a hot topic right now.
Well, yeah, it's about 30 years too late for me.
Mm.
But, there is there's a movement, I guess, within America where, kids... I mean, listen, bullying's happened from time eternal. I mean, it's just human nature, But as of recently, there's been attention called towards the issue of bullying, and I think it's a good effort. I think the spirit is right. Where some kids that have been bullied and chronically bullied have unfortunately taken their life or fall into just absolute mental despair, and people are noticing it and trying to address it. Where it's not going to be tolerated anymore. It's not going to be one of these things where it's like, oh, Billy, just ignore them, just walk away, just turn and because I mean, with the advent of social media and all these other resources that people can get at you, it's not even just like my day. You go to school and if you get bullied, you go home or whatever, and you have a cry, and your mom tells you you're handsome, and and that's it. You go ride your bike, and anymore it's like everywhere. It's you get it on the computer, you get it on the Facebook, all this shit, and so it's something where they're trying to police, not just even with kids in school, but it's even just adults bullying each other in the workplace or etc. So it's something that's had an awareness, and everybody's supposed to be nice to each other, even stupid dicks.
But let me leave you on this is it's what, July 2014, so you're 2 years away from election, and I feel like we're in the same phase as we were in 2007, 6. Hillary. Let me ask you one question.
Oh, is that who you were talking about?
Yeah, but I'm not going to talk about her. Is the Barack Obama of 2016 going to be Al Franken?
Oof. That's a great shout.
Because I'm telling you right now, for people who don't know, Al Franken was a comedian, right? An actor. He was in Trading Places. He was that kind of thing. Done a hell of a lot of lunatic shit in his 20s. Has done all that and has done absolute fucking wonders for the state of Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
And is a really level-headed, switched-on type guy.
He really is. Incredibly intelligent.
He just might be that guy. Because I don't think You can answer better than me, Graham. I don't think America's ready for Hillary. No, because it's Hillary, because they're kind of done with that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
The Clintons and Bushes,
yes.
kind of done with that, you know?
Yeah. I think there's an element where it's like it's time to move on, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Like Samaras with us, you know?
Exactly. You know, Hillary's going to come back, and Hillary's in Greece, and no, Hillary's not coming back. Plus when things go pear-shaped, I mean, she runs her hands through her hair, and she puts her hands on her face, and just stop, get up, Hillary, get up, you're a donkey. No, I kid Hillary. No, I think you're absolutely spot on with that. I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that she's female. I think, to your point, it's just, it's the Clintons and everything else, and now we're, just sort of going back to that. It's time for something new. But that's an interesting shout. The first time that I've heard that mentioned. As is the case with any candidate that's going to be put forth for, especially a nationwide election, you have to take into consideration what and for the folks in the southern part of the United States who are listening, you might want to switch off now. You have to take into consideration what the rednecks are going to think. The people in North Carolina, which carries a lot of electoral votes, which factors heavily into the viability and the electability of any sort of candidate. And Al Franken, he's originally from New York, I believe. I believe he's I'm not sure what his religious background is, but it's almost as if a left-wing candidate's going to run. Look at Bill Clinton. They have to be from the South, or they at least have to be able to appeal to people in the South. Now, you might think that's sort of antithetical, considering Barack Obama has just won 2 presidential elections in a row. But keep in mind the fact that pretty close to a majority of the people, if not a majority of the people in the South, are actually African-American or are black. So, the fact that Barack Obama, himself being black, that turned out the vote in the South, in the southern part of the United States, nobody has ever seen before. I mean, people that just couldn't be bothered with voting, now all of a sudden turned out and voted because they wanted to see a black president, and they got it. And so it's going to be a situation where can the next presidential candidate, if they are not African-American, if they're not black, can they reach out and inspire the same enthusiasm of those people that can counteract the rednecks? And the question then becomes, is Al Franken going to be that candidate that can do that? And if he isn't, can even Hillary do that? Because when she ran against Barack Obama, she burned many bridges in the southern part of the United States with some perhaps maybe latent racial illusions that she had. That's going to be an interesting one.
We can see it. We're all adults listening. When John F. Kennedy was elected, he was told on the first day of office, "Didn't be too Catholic." And when Obama was elected, he was told, "Didn't be too black." Because at the end of the day, as you just alluded to right there and then, you can be whatever you like, but you have to be elected in America. Yeah. And that's not fucking going to fly in America with all these fucking idiots that in these states who just kind of, Obama's a Muslim and, he's a Kenyan and all this sort of shit. And you know what? I mean, I hear what you're saying with Hillary, because Hillary is, I don't honestly think, Graham, and maybe you can correct me here, I don't honestly think I ever knew in America a more polarising figure than Hillary.
Absolutely.
Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, Bill, no problem. Hillary, the hatred I seen towards that woman was unbelievable. So, and everything. But Al Franken, I like the guy. You know what I mean?
That's a great shout.
It's a bit like the Republican in the past always have these guys that they're hot on. Like Mike Huckabee was one of them.
Oh God!
Mike Huckabee for months. He's the guy. And you're sitting there as a kind of rounded human being, thinking you go up for a general election and you will be massacred.
I mean, his biggest claim to fame was losing 100 pounds. That's basically it. He was the governor of Arkansas, and he lost 100 pounds.
Yeah. And, and then you get to Rand Paul and...
Who, by the way, says that the Civil Rights Act was unconstitutional.
And, I remember when you have the Republican debates and stuff like that, Rick Santorum and all that kind of thing, and they're standing there stuttering and stammering, Howard, all these fucking morons stuttering and stammering, and then cut to... studio, CNN, and James Carville destroys the whole lot in 3 sentences.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And I remember, I think it was Rick Santorum or Rick Perry, somebody like Rick Perry maybe, who was asked about the date of something, and he couldn't remember what it was. And they went to Carville, and he said, couldn't you believe he didn't know that date? And he says, well, the date he actually should have remembered was August 19th. It's one of the regrets. And they all looked at him and said, what does that mean? He says, that's the day you go in the election. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's what you kind of read. That's the kind of, it was that slick talking Southern drawl that got Clinton in the White House. And Clinton went in with a guy pretty similar to him, and Al Gore. Do you know what I mean? It's not like that, Graham. You know the ticket. It's normally the opposite.
Right.
You know, Obama and Biden, fucking McCain and Palin. And,
well, yeah, just to sort of balance things out, because, you know, you want a running mate that's going to sort of smooth out the rough edges with people that might not gravitate towards you.
Yeah, and so Bill goes in with Al, and they're just like two Southern guys. Yeah. Two Southern middle-class middle-aged white guys. And
hey, where's the local McDonald's? I'm starving.
I mean, I fucking love Bill because he can, whatever anybody thinks of his politics or whatever he done or whatever Lewinsky in that shit, when that guy stands on a stage or goes on a chat show, he has the entire audience out the palm of his fucking hand.
Absolutely.
You know, I've been to Centralia. I come from places like Centralia. It doesn't have to be like this. And boom, they vote him. And that's it. And it's off. And that was how Clinton won the election against Bush Sr., midterm president in a war, so-called, in Iraq, and Bill unseats him. Why? Because he went to small-town America and said, I come from small-town America, I know what it's like, and I can change it for you. And they voted for him.
Well, and 8 years on, past that, you know, it was the polar opposite. You know, we're talking about Clinton beating Poppy Bush, who was a nerd. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The guy was a complete and utter nerd. He ran off of the sort of the coattails of Ronald Reagan, who, you know, had a lot of...
Read my lips. No more taxes.
Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture. You know, Saddam Hussein, he's invading countries, and
then Clinton goes in. He's like,
will not stand, man.
Yeah. That's just like your opinion, man. But, you know, Bill goes in there and he's like, I don't know what that guy just said, but I'm going to play some jazz saxophones. Everybody ready? You know, and then people were like, all right, this guy's down. This guy's cool. It's the 90s. Let's go. 8 years on, you get Al Gore, who, you know, is about as interesting as a Berber carpet going up against George W. Bush, who at the time, you know, nobody really had their guard up or their haunches up. I mean, think about it. You know, the tragedy, you know, from an American perspective was America could not be any more at the top in the year 2000. The economy is screaming, Silicon Valley, the internet, everything else. I mean, you know, it was just, everything was great. It was pre 9/11. So people were like, hey, you know, this guy Bush or whatever versus Al Gore, who gets up there. Now, we are going to have your Social Security locked in a lock box so that it's going to be protected. And people are like, what the hell is that guy talking about? And then George W. gets up there. We're going to get up there and look, this is your money, okay? And we're going to give it back to you because it's all about freedom, all right? And everybody that hates freedom, you can just vote for the other guy because I'm all about freedom. And people are like, all right, you know what? Let's give him a shot. We're done with the Clintons and all that. And it was a complete disaster. 9/11 happens. Bush goes in, you know, look, you're either with us or you're against us, and I'm going to invade any son of a bitch that, you know, that has any oil, and, you know, and I don't like men kissing each other, so if you don't like to see that, you vote for me, you know, and that's, you know, and it took that to happen for the general population to get engaged enough to start thinking critically about who they are going to elect. And that's the reason, that's a big reason why Barack Obama was elected. Yeah,
because you're in a situation where people are saying to George Bush, so why exactly are you invading Iraq? And he's like, well,
freedom.
Try to kill my dad.
Liberty. Freedom.
We are going to win Florida. You can write it down now. Yeah, because you're going to fix it. But what I will say in Al Gore's defense is he did manage to win the Nobel Peace Prize on the strength of a PowerPoint.
That's true. That's a good point.
Which is fucking staggering, but there you go. And I actually saw him present said PowerPoint long before An Inconvenient Truth came out, and he came on and said, I'm the former next president of the United States.
Yeah, and he had a beard, and, you know, I mean, he just completely transformed himself.
He was like fucking fatter than I've ever been.
No, he put on about 100 pounds. Like he lost the election and just retreated to a room with Mars bars and and crisps and just stayed there for 3 months.
People spent the next 8 years watching him every day, saying the minute he stands on that treadmill, he's running again. If he goes on a treadmill, he's going to run.
Yeah, that's the tea leaves, and to the point where when Barack Obama got in there, seemed like a viable candidate, beat Hillary Clinton. I mean, the political juggernaut.
Yeah,
I mean, Chris Rock said it best, and it's so much of Chris Rock's comedy is it's funny, but it's a lot of it's so funny because it's so true. Chris Rock talks about people saying we ain't ready for a black president. Why not? We just had a retarded one.
I'm sorry, I can never hear the words Chris Rock without hearing the government hates rap. Tupac was killed on Las Vegas Boulevard. No fucking witnesses. And
you think that the CIA or nobody can find out who killed him? I mean, Tupac's still coming out with albums. He's been dead 10 years. And he's got clues in the lyrics. Like, it was a guy named Tony that left my mother lonely. Oh, did you hear that? There's a guy named Kenny who shot me all the lady. It's like, what? Wait, there's clues in that. It's the guy in the red that was the one that shot me dead. It's like,
I'm sorry, but the listeners will appreciate it. And please switch off if you're offended or you're a lady or anything. But Graham, when you're doing Chris Rock, you have to do the whole what female lyrics they'll listen to thing.
If the beat's all right, she'll dance all night. He's talking about rap lyrics where you got a catchy beat to it, and girls are out there and they're dancing around, and it's like, do you know what he's saying? And it's like, smack her with a dick, 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 and they're out there dancing, it's because if the beat's all right, she'll dance all night, and they always respond with the same thing, like, aren't you offended? He's saying smack her with the dick, and she stops for a minute and she goes, nope, ain't talking about me. Smack her with a dick, smack her with a dick. Smack her with
But let me say as well, Graham, we're 2 hours in now, and here, I'm going to bring this really down, right? You listen, everybody huddle round your...
All right, we're ready.
Your huddle round your iPods and speakers and all that kind of thing. The 4 people listening who will complain about the length of the show, right?
Yes, your medal's in the mail, by the way.
Yeah, now listen.
Okay.
We're only doing this for you.
Yes.
This is why we're still here.
Yep.
It's because of you. And I know that you'll DM me tomorrow and say, oh, listen to the end of that show and all that kind of thing. But what I want you to do is get really close, right? Because I'm going to say something now that's just for you and it's not for anybody else.
All right, go ahead.
Stop fucking complaining! So, just as long as that can happen, we're all fine.
All right. Very good. Well, I think that's a good way to sign off.
Yes, it is.
Paul, thank you so much.
9 in a row.
9 in a row.
Hope you appreciate the fact that Graham was high on amphetamines, I was high on crack, and...
Bye, Rangers. Very good. Paul, thank you, and all the best. We'll talk to you soon. And thank you to the listeners for soldiering on and putting up with all this once again.
We do try and give you pearls here.
That's true. Pearls. Not on a necklace or anything like that. That's grotesque.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, you're talking about babies and Elizabeth.
What?
Now I'm back thinking about Hillary.
What did I say? Oh, Jesus. That's a soon-to-be presidential candidate, okay? There's nothing sacred.
No, I was talking about Hillary Wilson.
Oh, stop it.
Pearl necklace, but no. That's Hillary in 2011. Anyway. No.
For Paul Larkin...
It did sound like that.
For Paul Larkin, I'm Graham Wilson. Hail, hail.
From Paul Wilson and Graham Larkin.
Hail, hail, and keep the faith. We'll talk to you soon. Aren't you going to do the sayonara? That's your send-off.
Oh, sorry, you're telling me to shut up. Bye, Hillary. Bye.
Every
sayonara.
show. Sayonara. Sayonara.
You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old past said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got trouble, and I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together, see it through, 'cause you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Some other folks might be a little bit smarter than I am, big and stronger too, maybe, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. It's me and you, boy, and as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny. You got a friend in